Mi365 Podcasts with me, Pete Cohen. Hi, it's Pete Cohen, and thank you for joining me for another Mi365 podcast. Before we start the podcast, feel free to head over to www.mi365.me. That's mi365.me, and find out how you can get involved in 365 days of free coaching every day, Monday to Friday, broadcasting live at 7 a.m. in the UK. I broadcast on Facebook, helping people, coaching people create the life that they want. I believe everyone needs coaching. And today, the subject I'm going to be talking to you about is the subject that everyone who wants to really achieve the potential that they have has to get their head around, and that's habits. Now, I wrote a best-selling book in 2002. It's been published in multiple languages all over the world because it's a subject that it doesn't matter what country you come from. Our lives are created by the habits that we have. And I heard recently that about 80% of what we do is habitual. What does that mean? It means so many things we do, we don't even realize that we're doing them. They're just habits. So if you were going to make a list of all the things that you do in your life that are habitual, you'd see, wow, there are so many things that you do right now that you don't even think about it. What I'd like to do today in this podcast is just to give you a different perspective, give you some different tools and tips so you can go away and use the greatest gift that we have. Now, if I was to give you a box, a present, and wrap it up, put a nice bow on it, and say, look, this is the gift to you, and you were to open it up and it had the word written on it, inside it, adaptability. That is the greatest gift that we have. We have the ability to adapt. The biggest challenge we have in changing our life is a part of our brain that doesn't want to let go. It thinks that the way that we are is the way that we should be. Now, people often refer to this as what's called homeostasis, which is your body's way of going back to what is familiar to it, the way it regulates. It thinks the way that you are is the way that you are supposed to be. And this works on multiple levels. So think about this for a moment. If you were to write a list of all the habits that you have, how many of those habits, if you were to write them down, you wish you didn't have? So maybe the habit of procrastinating, talking yourself out of doing things, the habit of smoking, eating too much, the habit of worrying, the habit of beating yourself up. If you were to make a list of all of these habits, what's really important, and this is one of the most important things I might say to any of you that are listening to this, don't look at your habits as good or bad or right or wrong. Just look at them as something that you do. And maybe they're going to move you in the direction that you want to go, i.e. going to help you to grow, or they're just going to serve you in a way that maybe they have served you in the past. Because in most cases, the first time you ever did a habit, it was the best that you knew how to do at that moment in time. And if you've practiced something over time, then it becomes a habit. What does that really mean? Well, for me, a habit is something that you do without thinking about it. Now, if you think about all the things that you can do in your life, how many of those things when you did them for the first time were really difficult? I don't know about you, but I still to this day remember getting so confused about learning the time. Yes, I was one of those people that learned it with a watch face with the two hands and the seconds, and I remember struggling with that. I remember struggling with learning my times table. I remember struggling tying my shoelaces, and boy, do I remember struggling learning to drive. I still to this day can't believe that I passed my test first time round. But why did I follow through? Well, in many cases, I had what's called dedicated practice, as opposed to what some people call naive practice. You see, look, I believe we have the ability to be superhuman. And when you look at people who have achieved greatness in their life, and I've been very fortunate enough to work with multiple people who are extremely brilliant at what they do, and I have a quite bizarre way of looking at this, which I'll explain to you in a minute, that they have done what they've done through practice, and in many cases, dedicated practice. So if you look at someone who's brilliant at what they do, it's because they've practiced more than you have. And we have people all over the world that think they deserve a better life when they're not prepared to work at it. So I have to ask you this question, and maybe this will be a good thing for you to write down. Think of anything in your life that you would like to achieve. Maybe you'd like to be slimmer, fitter, healthier, happier. Maybe you'd like to have more confidence, more energy, be more financially free. I mean, that's what Mi365 is all about. We are looking to help people, empower people all over the world to create a better story. See, if you don't change, and you don't change your life by design, superhuman by habit, if you don't work at it, then you'll just be a victim to the habits that you've had before in the past. So if you think of what it is that you want, and then you have to make a list of what are the habits that are stopping you from achieving what it is that you want, you'll realize, wow, this is something I need to address. You see, there are probably people listening to this all over the world that will agree with what I'm saying. But whether you agree with what I'm saying isn't really important. It's what you're going to do with it. So just think for a moment, all the things that you've ever achieved in your life, and how many of those things, it took work, it took dedication. And in many cases, the reason that you did it and you followed through is sometimes because you were being told, but in other cases, it's because you wanted it. So think about it. What about driving? For so many people, they wanted to drive so much because it meant freedom. It meant being able to leave their parents, and it meant independence. And for so many people, even though they failed their test first time, they kept going because they wanted it. Now, please think about this. This is really important. Habits. Think about old habits and new habits. Old habits are things that you are. What does that mean? It means you just do them without thinking. If I put my hand out to shake your hand, you put your hand out to shake mine. Why? Because that's what you are. That's what you've practiced. That's what you do. But in fact, new habits are much more things. They're not things that you are. They're things that you have to practice. They're things that you have to do until they become habitual. So think about this. The secret sauce in life is your ability to adapt. So if I said, right, get on the floor right now and do me 5 press-ups, how many of you could do that? Well, a number of you could. How many of you could do 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100? Now, if you could do 100 press-ups, it's because you must have trained your body to do it. If you could only do 1, well, that's because you haven't trained yourself to do it. But what if you did 1? And what if tomorrow you did 2? And what if the next day you did 3? It's the adaptability. It's called the homeostasis. Your body always tries to take you back to where it's comfortable, to regulate. And what is amazing is that when we change, we can use our body's ability to favor stability by just pushing ourselves a little bit. If you push yourself a little bit and a little bit more, then the homeostasis changes and your body gets more comfortable at a different level. That's what happens when you go to the gym. It's exactly the same with your brain. It's just most of us don't know this. Most of us don't practice with purpose when we want to do something. And most of us don't set ourselves up to win. If you want to set yourself up to win, write this word down. It's a Japanese word. It's called kazen. It means baby steps. It means just doing that little bit. So many people, when they want to change, they go, okay, all right, I've heard meditation is really important. So I'm going to meditate for an hour. So they sit down. Did I leave the gas on? Oh, this is really uncomfortable. I don't like this. Oh, no. And they give up and they don't like it. Or they're so unfit. They go to the gym, they do an hour and haven't done anything for like 2 years. And then they go home and then the next day they can't walk. They're not going to go back. You've got to set yourself up to win. And this to you, just so you know, my weakness is I like everything done now. And I struggle sometimes to break it down and be more patient. Look, no one is perfect. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you'll realize you're not perfect. But you can be better. Everyone can be better. So when we look at how man has developed, the only reason we are here on earth today is because people in your forefathers, your lineage, people practiced habits until they became habitual. But we should be looking at ourselves now as practicing man, not homo sapien. We should look at ourselves as practicing man. We have the ability to practice things to make them better. So look, what I'd love you to do is to become more aware. Show yourself huge amounts of compassion when it comes to change, because many of us give ourselves a really hard time when we don't get what we want, when we become victim to our habits. We don't have to be victim to our habits. We can change. You've done it many times in your life. Just think for a moment, how many times have you changed and you didn't even realize it? How many clothes do you have that you would never wear again? Or how many places have you been on holiday that you would never go there again? How many people do you used to call friends, but yet you don't want to see them ever again? We change all the time. Having a big enough reason can be really helpful. What I would encourage you to do is to break it down. Set yourself up to win. If you want to start having more muscles, then you want to maybe do press-ups, do 2 or 3, but don't try and do 100. And this is another really important point. The difference between naive practice. People just think, oh, repetition is the mother of all skill, which a lot of people say. It can be, but it can also be a nightmare. Some people think, well, if I continue to drive, I'll become a better driver. How many drivers do you see that have forgotten so much of the good practice that they learned when they learned to drive? Or anything in life. Doctors don't necessarily become better doctors just because they've been practicing for a long time. What we need is what's called purposeful practice. When you think about what it is that you want in your life. So, for example, you want to be slimmer. So what would be purposeful practice? Well, obviously eating less or eating slowly would be a really good idea. So you'd get a chance to know when you've had enough. Purposeful practice would be seeing where you want to go, your target, because we're target-orientated beings. And you think, okay, this is my target. How could I break this down? So what is it I could do today that would start to move me in the direction that I want to go? And then, of course, there's dedicated practice. Dedicated practice is when you're working with someone, a group of like-minded people, or you have a coach, someone who is holding you accountable for the things that you want to achieve. That's why I believe everyone needs coaching, because when you're learning, you're getting feedback. And it's great with that feedback to be able to work through that with someone else. I'm not saying everyone should have coaching. I'm not saying everyone should work with like-minded people, but it helps. And that's one of the key things of Mi365. We have a community of people all over the world who are working together. But not only is 80% of what we do habitual, I don't know exactly where that figure comes from, but a large percentage of what we do is habitual. But also maybe 80% of success is just showing up. People that show up to our daily broadcasts, people who show up to these podcasts and listen to them all, take notes and take action. Superhuman by habit, the superhuman ability that we have is the ability to adapt, the ability to change, the ability to create new neurological pathways in our brain. If you look at someone who's very successful, yes, maybe they are more talented than you, but I could show you so many people who weren't particularly talented, but worked with what they had and tapped into the secret source of life, which is our ability to create new habits. Often, when we create new habits, old habits just die off. There is more to you than meets the eye. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast. And when you listen to the other ones that we've done with some incredible human beings, whether it's Ronnie O'Sullivan, Gemma Magnuson, Tim Dingle, you'll realize that when you listen to these people, it's like, what's the difference between me and them? Well, in many cases, they are superhuman by design. They are superhuman by the habits that they have created. So start small, set yourself up for success. Let us help you if we can. Just head over to mi365.me, get involved in a community of people all over the world that are looking to create a better life for themselves, their family, for the next generation. Guys, you're awesome. Take care. But most importantly, take action. Bye-bye. Hey guys, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a few moments to write a comment and share it. Let's get this information out there to as many people as possible. Stories really do change lives. So please, write some comments, share it, and let's change the world. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you want more free inspiration to optimize your life so you can achieve your goals in all the different areas of your life, then visit mi365.me. That's mi365.me and sign up to 365 days of free coaching with me, Pete Cohen. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.